All right, these.
I'm not familiar with this.
These are what are called pranayama bolsters. And so they're kind of like miniature bolsters. They're longer, thinner, and you can use them in a lot of different ways. And since today we're doing restorative yoga as well as pranayama, I thought, let's bring in the pranayama bolsters. I only have 12 of these. We purchased these towards the end of my reign of owning Half Moon Yoga. We probably had them a year before we had to shut down because of COVID. So anyway, we'll be using them today. I actually use one of these on my bed. And so if I ever want to do some bed yoga, you can use your regular pillow from bed, but I have this up as kind of like a toss pillow, and then I'll use it. So before we get going, I'm going to turn down the music because today is a special day. And if you read the description for this particular workshop, I wanted to honor the fact that it is September 11th. And I haven't always honored this day, and I'll tell you why. So I was a flight attendant when 9/11 happened. And I know all of us can recall probably very vividly where we were that day, that particular morning. And I happened to be in Buffalo, New York. I was a lead flight attendant on a DC-9. A DC-9 aircraft, depending on what model it is, they generally hold about 100 people. And it was just me and another flight attendant and the captain and the co-pilot. We were ending a 5-day trip. So we had been gone out flying here, there, and everywhere for 5 days. This was the day we were meant to go home. And we were taking a flight from Buffalo to Detroit. And we were going to finish our day and be done. When we showed up at the airport that morning, I worked for Northwest Airlines. And at that time, our partners were Continental Airlines. Or actually, we weren't partnered with them yet. I think the partnership came after September 11th. Our real partnership was with KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. And then eventually we partnered with Continental. We got to the airport, we're making our way through the ticketing counter, through the security, and a Continental agent came running over and whispered into our captain's ear. You know, that happens a lot. We didn't think anything about it. So we go through security, and when we were on the other side of security, the pilot turned around and told us there's a plane that just hit one of the towers. We didn't have any more information than that. In fact, at that time, they thought it was a private plane. So we're walking through the concourse, and just like any concourse in any airport, right? There's stores and there's bars and restaurants. And there was this restaurant that had the TV on. Everybody was like corralling around the TV. So we watched the screen as we walked by, and we saw one of the towers and the smoke going up. We had to continue to get to our gate to board our flight. So we start to board our flight, and we were probably going to have about 90 passengers. It wasn't completely full, but the majority of our passengers were Japanese. There was a big Japanese group that was on a tour of the US. They had been in Buffalo and had specifically gone to Niagara Falls. And they were boarding our flight, all gleefully, all very excited, because they were headed beyond Detroit to Phoenix to go to the Grand Canyon. You can imagine their excitement, but you can also imagine there was a real language barrier too, because not all of them could speak English. And luckily, I met the interpreter as they were getting on the flight. Well, as people were boarding, the cockpit's behind me, and they have the radio up, so anybody could hear it, right? They're doing all their checks, and they have the radio on. And then the message comes through, having set up over good day, welcome. And we heard the second tower, just. So immediately I turned to look in the cockpit and both the pilots look at each other and put their headsets on, and turned off the radio so we couldn't hear anything else. Captain called me into the cockpit. He said, don't call. If I called, my phone's right there as everybody's passing by. He said, don't call, walk to the back of the plane, tell the other flight attendant what has happened. Probably not going anywhere, but we have to wait for our orders. So I did what the captain said. I took off down the aisle, told the flight attendant in the back. And already we're thinking terrorism because we've been trained for this. Already, Osama bin Laden was already in our vocabulary. We had learned about him and the tactics and all that. So me and the flight attendant are talking about that in the back. And I was like, I gotta get back up to the front. You know, not a lot of time is passing, and I'm walking back up the aisle. There's a passenger in the middle of the plane talking on the phone. She screams at me, the Pentagon just got hit. This is new information. I didn't know. I assumed the pilot knew, but I'm on a mission to go tell the pilot. There's a third building. The cool thing that I want you to hear is something came over me, and this was before I got into yoga. I had actually maybe done a few videos before that point. I had never stepped into a classroom. I had never been in a studio up until that point. September 11th, this particular day actually led me to class. This is what led me to was that event, that traumatic event. So I'm headed up to the cockpit to go tell the pilot about the Pentagon. Meanwhile, past 50 some passengers, there's a gentleman sitting in one beat, and I don't know what came over me, but something came over me, and I touched his shoulder, and I said, the Pentagon just got hit. Looked at me with wide eyes and said, what did you say? And I repeated it, and he said, that's where my wife is. That's where she works. I'm telling you that because I didn't know anything about this man. He was a complete stranger. And I passed 50 people, but I was drawn to him. That is the power of intuition. That is the power of spirit moving through you at different times, and you may have no idea why. So I told him, get all your stuff, get off the plane, we're not going anywhere. We still got our orders, but I already knew we're not going anywhere. I said, go call your wife. So he did. So we had to wait a while, and needless to say, New York was shut down. The East Coast shut down. And then the whole United States shut down. Then we had to help the gate agents collect people who were landing immediately, like emergency landing in Buffalo, to tell them what had happened. So that's what happened in September 11th. And then I was stuck in Buffalo for 4 days watching CNN 24 hours a day. So what I want us to remember is we can all, like, we could go around the circle and we could all tell our story. Every single one of us was impacted. Every single one of us were impacted because of that traumatic event. It was a traumatic event that not only affected us as individuals, not only our families and communities, but our nation and the world at large. I don't want us to recall a lot of the bad scenes that we saw that day. What I want you to think about is the courage of the heroes that day. The firefighters, the police officers, the people in the towers that were just there on a work day who were helping other people, the strangers on the street that were helping as much as they could, the reporters that were giving the facts before it got so crazy and polarizing like it is today. And just think about some of the good that came from that. And even the flight crews, because before that day happened, we were all trained to practice the Stockholm Syndrome. Before that point, lives weren't as threatened in that situation. We were taught to have compassion for the terrorists. We were taught to befriend them. We were taught to create a heart-to-heart connection with them, to save ourselves and to save as many people as possible, and to listen to them and to do what they asked so that you were saving lives. That day changed everything. So from that point on, our training changed. The way we did things changed. Airports are still not back to what they used to be. But there is so much beauty that came out of that. My in-law was married at the time, and my in-laws at the time were on a trip in Europe. They had never left the United States. This was their first time. And now they're in Europe and all this is happening. And they're stuck because they can't get home. But the Europeans rallied around them, supported them, made sure they had everything they needed, and made sure they eventually got home safely. A lot of the international flights that were coming to the United States couldn't land in the United States that day, so they went to Canada. The Canadians showed up. This was reported. Regular people just flocked to the airports. Very similar to what happened when we put out of Afghanistan and the people were fleeing. People would just show up and say, I have one bedroom, I can take a family, I can take one person. People were bringing strangers into their home. They were feeding them. It was all about taking care of humanity. So much loving kindness came about because our hearts were cracked open. And sometimes when we crack open, that's when the light can come in, and that's when the light can shine out. Being so emotionally raw and broken from that experience, I knew when I got back to Nashville, the first thing I did, I didn't have a cell phone then. First thing I did was get out the phone book. I didn't even have a computer then. Got out the phone book, yoga. I need yoga. I didn't know yoga was mental. I didn't know yoga was spiritual. I just had been feeling called to yoga anyway. And I knew when I got back, I was like, I need something. I'm gonna go see what this yoga is about. And when I went to my first class, I'm laying in Shavasana, but she didn't tell us what we're gonna be doing. And I'm like, jumping up, didn't know what I was supposed to do. And 2 weeks into my yoga practice and doing it twice a week, there was a point in Shavasana where I felt this huge weight lifted out of my heart center. And I felt the most peace, and I felt the most open, and I felt so free. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how to describe it. I didn't know what to do with it, but I left that class going, I want more of that. That made me feel light. It made me feel good again. And it just took the pain away, took the heartbreak away. And I was like, I gotta have more of that. So I was fortunate because I came to the mat after something traumatic had happened in my life. And usually that is when the spiritual essence of it really seeps into your awareness. And you may be coming for physical reasons. You may be coming because your doctor said you need some stress relief, or you need to lower your blood pressure, or maybe you're just curious. But anytime that we're having a struggle in life, anytime we're dealing with hardship, please don't let your practice go. That's when we need it the most. So just keep showing up, keep rolling out your mat, even if you can't do the postures, because when life is hard, it also shows up in the body. And you may feel like not so great somewhere in your body, but just do what you can to the best of your ability and breathe your way through it. And I promise you'll feel better in the long run. So today is a remembrance It is a remembrance of those that were fallen that day. It is a remembrance as well of how we unified. And that's what we need desperately here today. We need to come back together. We need to stop the narratives and the polarization, the fighting, the discord, and remember it's time to heal humanity's heart. We've been through a collective trauma. This pandemic, we keep getting the hits. It's not even over. And we just keep getting hit and keep getting hit. New virus, a new strain, this, that, and the other. It's just shh. So we're going to try to remember the power of breath. Because the power of the breath can help us to transmute the energy. It can help us to neutralize our emotions. It can pull all of our shattered pieces and bring us together to feel whole again. That is the yoga. And that is my hope for us today. So what we're going to start with we're actually going to be doing a few moving and breathing meditations in the beginning. And I'm going to show you one, and you're not going to lie down yet. I just want you to have this visual for when we get there. It's going to land under your ankles, and your blanket can be underneath your head. And then what we're going to be doing is inhale, sending the arms up, and then exhale, pulling one knee in. And of course, you don't have to pull the knee in. You can even be here, here, or here, okay? And then the inhale and the exhale. Now, we're going to do breathing first before we get into that, but I wanted you to have that visual. I don't know if you have participated in Holly's classes here on Friday. It's a form called Vena Yoga. And that is the type of moving, breathing meditations we're going to be doing today. We're going to start with alternate nostril breathing because that's going to help to balance the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. It balances the masculine and the feminine, and it balances the solar and lunar energies inside. We're going to take the right hand. This is not mirroring you guys. First two fingers to the brow. Let your ring finger and thumb hang down towards your nose. And at first, just keep the nose open. Take a deep breath in and back out. Now close the right side with your thumb. Breathe in through the left. At the top, close the left side. Lift your thumb. Breathe out right. Breathe in right. Lower the thumb, lift the ring finger, breathe out left. Breathe in left. Breathe out right. Breathe in right. And out left. We're going to add a movement next round. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale, close the left side, open the right, and lean over the right side of your lap. Breathe into the top. Close the right side, lift the ring finger, breathe out, lean left. Breathe in and up to the top. Breathe out and down to the right. We're still swapping the fingers. Keep the right side open and breathe in. And now swap the fingers, breathe out, lean left. In left and up. Breathe out, down to the right. Now continue this process. So you've developed rhythmic breathing, and now you're incorporating some rhythmic movement. Go at your own pace. You can have one breath rolling into the next, or you can have a natural still point in between. Usually one side of the nose is more dominant than the other. This shows up when we have colds. All of a sudden, one passageway is open and then the other passageway is shut down. So if you're ever feeling very scattered, or if you're feeling hyperactive, this could be one way in which you find some inner harmony and balance using this breathing technique. The next time you fall over the left side of your lap, you'll remove the mudra from the face, lift back to center, have your hands resting down. Keep the lids of the eyes closed. Breathing in through both sides of the nose. Just noticing any residual effects. Three more breaths. Bring your hands to prayer position at your heart. Set your intention to use these different breathing techniques for your own medicinal purposes. Dedicate your practice to your breath that will bring you home to yourself, that will bring you home to your heart, and back into that embodiment of love. So your pranayama bolster will be at the top edge of the mat. Your blanket can go underneath your head and your neck. Did everyone get one of these towels with the rose oil? Okay, good. Have that within hand's reach. And then when you're ready, you're going to inhale, stretch your arms overhead. And as you exhale, you're going to pull the left knee in towards your belly and chest. Rhythmic breathing, rhythmic motion, like you did that pranayama work. Inhale, extend your limbs. Stay on the left side and exhale, left knee comes in. Continue this repetitious work with your left leg only. Slow, controlled breathing. Slow, controlled movements. Your mindfulness is coming into play to synchronize that movement with breath. So the length or duration of your inhale or exhale will determine how fast or slow you go. Beautiful. The next time you inhale, just stretch out through your limbs, but as you exhale, swap to your right side. Again, it's up to you whether or not you just want to have your hands free, or if you want to tag the knee, or even pull in more. Catering to your body, catering to your needs. simple, gentle, easeful movements. But know that when we're bringing the knees in, we're working the muscles of the legs, we're working the hip flexors, we're working the lower abdominals, and that little compression where the thigh meets the belly is good for digestion. Now, the next time you inhale, stretch that right leg out, propping the ankles over the bolster, and allow your arms to come down in an A-frame position alongside your body with your palms turned open. And if you want the towel with the rose oil to wrap over the eyes, you can unroll it. The douse of the oil is at the folded edge. And you may or may not want that scent right at the tip of the nose, depending on how much you enjoy the scent. Now, rose oil is an uplifting essential oil. It's a great essential oil for the heart center. And think of the positive attributes that stem from the heart. All types of love, from benevolent to unconditional to limitless. We have compassion and empathy, courage, hope, faith. All your exhalations down into your heart. Connect and center yourself here. Seven. Lightly pull both knees in towards your abdomen. And you can roll over to your right side body. Roll and acclimate to the right side. Press down through your left knee. And then gently build your way up. I want you to hold that much longer. Since the knees were kind of hanging out in the air a little bit. I wanted you to feel how you use it to support the ankle joints. If you were doing that in bed, think about how the mattress would most likely be supporting your knees instead of being on the flat hardwood floor. We're going to separate the feet now. And we're going to do a little cat-cow from the sitting position, holding the knees. And we're going to drive the head and the heart through them, and then jet the chin upward and draw the shoulders back. On your out breath, pull the navel in, press into the shoulder blades and bow your head. And then inhale, blossom through the knees. Opening the heart, lifting the gaze up. And then exhale, drawing in and gazing down. We're just opening up some movement in our spine. Incorporating maybe a light Ujjayi breath. The breath becomes audible to listen to. And that's the rhythm we follow. Last one. On your next in breath, lift up through the crown, stack your hands behind your back, and just let your knees swish over to the right. Inhale, bring them up, and then take them over to the left. So you're just windshield wiping the knees from side to side. And after you take it to the left, or second blanket, I'm not sure if you used one for your head earlier, it may still be there. So if you have a second one, if you need a second one, I'll bring it to you in just a minute. This is what we're going to be doing next. The pranayama bolster will now tuck underneath the knees. We're going to be moving up with the joints. This other blanket, I would suggest opening it up like this and then folding it in half. So it looks like this. So that when you roll back, you can take it over the rim of the pelvis, the belly, tuck it into your waist, and this can be helpful in getting you nice and grounded. Does anybody need a second blanket? I'm happy to bring one to you. Yes. Settling back into stillness. Feel the wrap of the blanket. Feel held and supported because you are loved and supported. In fact, maybe recite that affirmation to yourself. I am loved and supported. I'm loved and supported. point your toes as you inhale, and then press up through your heels as you exhale. Just go back and forth for a few rounds. Flexing one way and then the other. Go ahead and begin to bend the knees. Unwrap the blanket across your body. Roll over to your right side. Acclimate there first. Slowly begin to come up. Yes, the bathroom is through the door, through the hallway. I'm gonna have you open up that blanket the way I showed you. And then slowly roll, or fold it to the point where it looks like this. And if you cross compare it with the Pranayama bolster, it's similar, right? Similar in width. Because you may need the blanket if this doesn't feel good, okay? And that way, if the bolster's not feeling good, if it's too stiff or just too much, you can always replace it with this blanket. Because there's some days it feels great to me and other days where I'm like, oh, it's too much. So we're gonna do a moving breathing meditation first. That's gonna look like this, where you're lifting to Satchibandhasana, and then you're coming back down to the sacrum. And then we're gonna do that several times over. And then it's gonna come to the point where when you're lifting up, you can bring that bolster so that it comes into your low back and your seat dips down to the floor. Now you can do one of two things. If you want to be here, you know, in reclined butterfly, you could do that. You may want the big bolster though, under the knees to support the knees more. This might feel good, but remember, if that bolster is just too much for your body, you can replace it with this thin blanket to go underneath your low back, okay? So we'll start with the bridges, and then we'll set up for the restorative. So coming to flatten your feet, knees bent, arms beside your body. We'll plug the feet down, soar the hips up as the arms circle to a line next to the ears. And as we exhale, we'll roll down one vertebra at a time, allowing the hands and sacrum to land. And when you're ready to take your next breath, you're coming up on the inhale and rolling back down on the exhale. Let's do about 5 more. Synchronizing with your breath and keeping the breath under your conscious control. The breath will often relate to us what the state of our mind is like. But we can manipulate the state of the mind by controlling the breath. When you've done at least 5 to 7 of these cycles, this is where we can explore. Perhaps trying the bolster under the lumbar area. and the big bolster underneath the knees for butterfly. And if your body is not allowing for that type of contortion, that type of shape, then please come out, replace the bolster with the blanket. And I have a blanket folded here. I don't feel like the back door is right. I will share. Your arms in this position, great question. I would do the goddess arms, goalpost type arms, unless that's uncomfortable for the shoulders. So remember, restorative is meant to be comfortable enough to lounge in. So please don't force the position or think that you have to have a certain type of prop. We can exchange it. Mind and body permission to rest. It's easy to get trapped in our thoughts, emotions, but the breath has the power to set us free. Allow your breath to set your spirit free. Right, folding the knees together. Rolling over to one side of your body. Casually coming up. Sliding that bolster behind you away. It don't blame me. There's some days where the bolster feels great, and there's other days where it's like, it's too much. So I noticed a couple of weeks changed into exactly what you need. We're gonna be moving into our mid back. So I want to get a couple twists in first. So what we're going to be doing is inhale, just lift up, and you can have your legs straight or crossed, doesn't matter. We're going to lift up through the chest cavity, and as we exhale, we're just going to twist to the right. Now pull slightly with your left hand and push into the floor with your right hand. Good, inhale, lift up to the ground, and then exhale, turn all the way to the other side. Pulling slightly with the right hand, pushing slightly with the left. Inhale, reach up to the top of the head. Exhale.